All right, cool. So I guess we'll just do a couple of questions here. We only have two mics, so we'll just have to pass them along and share them. So guys, you, Michael, Loren, you guys are in the world of voice acting, live action acting too. I guess we'll start with Loren and then go over to Michael. Tell us a little bit of how you got started in the business of entertainment, voice acting, and live action acting.
Oh, well, being involved with Pokemon, people come up to me and they say, how do I become a voice actor? And the piece of advice that I always give is do exactly what I did, which is become the director and then cast yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I was hired to adapt the scripts from the original Pokemon TV series and then direct the voice actors. At that time, we knew that there were 150 Pokemon. We had 52 episodes, so I figured besides Pikachu, and probably Pikachu would be in all the episodes, and then probably an average of 3 Pokemon. So we would book the actors for a certain time, let's say 2 hours. If we got done in an hour and 45 minutes, I just thought, I'll go in and say, Char, and that's it. But then we started to realize that Charmander was in the next episode, and he was in the TV commercial, and he's in the game, and he's in the movie. But at the beginning, I didn't know that there would be, that a lot of the Pokemon would be recurring. So that's how I got into voice acting. I did voices. I don't claim to be an actor, and the people who have heard my performances agree with that. So that's my story. Well, yes, Primeape is a yeah, because not everyone can do that.
So I auditioned for this role. Actors audition for things. People don't realize, because a lot of times they'll say, "How did you get that? How did you get that?" And it's the same every time. They give us a script, we record it, or in the case I do a lot of on-camera work also. They videotape, they video it, and then they look at your audition, and then they decide if they want to use you or not. Sometimes you have to go through 2 or 3 steps. I think the Batman show is like 2-3 steps. An initial audition and a couple of callbacks, and then finally them calling and saying you have the part. So whatever we do, unless you cast yourself, you have to audition for it.
So my question, I guess, would be, what was the difference between like Batman the animated series and like the new Batman Adventures, as far as how they directed you to act as like Robin versus Nightwing between those 2 shows? And for Michael, how were your experiences between Pokemon and Kirby? How did they differ, the writing and voice acting side of those 2? If that's all right to ask.
Well, a lot of people say, what did you think of the difference in the animation between Batman the Animated Series and the Adventures, Batman and Robin? And personally, I didn't even notice it, because the transition from one show to the other was totally seamless as far as the writers, the directors, the actors. It was just a continuation of the show. The only difference is, of course, that they brought in Tim Drake to be Robin, and they moved Dick Grayson up to Nightwing. And so the one story I have about that is that Andrea Romano, who was the voice director, called me up one day and said, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is you're not going to be playing Robin anymore in the Adventures of Batman and Robin. And I said, what could possibly be the good news? And she said, you're going to be Nightwing. So that's how that happened.
As far as adapting the series between Pokemon and then I eventually went on to work on a Kirby show, another game, turned into a series, and then Sonic X and a couple of others. But I think Pokemon, I think in Pokemon there were more, it was a little bit more of a challenge because there were more Japanese puns that really didn't translate into English. There were more even visual puns that had visuals connected with Japanese traditions or gags or cultural things, and also kind of adding gags and jokes and wordplay where there really wasn't originally in the series. And some viewers liked that and some didn't. But I think that was the challenge. And also because by the time I had done Pokemon, a couple hundred episodes, I was more used to the process. And I think we had a little bit more time for Kirby because when Pokemon came on, it just blew up, and then it started airing it 5 days a week, and then even more often than that. So it was a game of catch up to try to keep up with the. And then they had movies and other side things that we had to do. So I think that was the difference.
I'm glad you brought up that topic about with Pokemon, because when it blew up, it did blow up. Whereas Batman, for instance, there was a process that went into it. Nobody knew what it was going to be while you guys were developing it. So for both of you guys, we'll start with the Pokemon part of it. You guys were receiving this animation, so you guys were translating, as you said, right? And then for Batman, and I don't know for the translating when you guys were all in there doing your own thing. Did you guys work in a group as well for that? Because I know with Batman, you guys worked like old radio style. So what were some of the pros and the cons, improv-wise? I'm sure with Batman, you have a Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, Arlene Sorkin, all these guest stars come in. There's probably some room for improv, and I think the directors and everybody involved were really open to that development of characters, as opposed to they were banging the Pokemon out really quickly. Did they give you a chance as actors to be creative?
I heard about 40% of your question, but I think you're asking we didn't do. I'm surprised that all the actors come in and do it. Wow, no, we never had that I don't know if that's a luxury or not. I think it is. I think the actors generally prefer that because they get to interact more. But they animate to your track, right? And then we were doing the opposite, so the visuals are already there. I mean, it's more of the Japanese style where they sort of do that. Now they're changing a little bit now, I understand. But we already had the show, so we had to match it, and that's a whole different thing. And so we did actor by actor. Luckily, what we did was, because in our show, the actors got paid by the hour, so we tried to have actors who could do multiple roles because it was better for us because we knew the actor would be more dedicated. A lot of them, a couple of times in the beginning of the series, we had main characters. After a couple of months, I got summer stock, I don't want to do it anymore. And even though they had a contract, we'd never hold them to it. But so it was better for us, it was better for them because they made more money. But we always did it just actor by actor.
Because there was more of a time constraint to that.
It was always a time pressure to get the show done because it was airing, and it was just really.
They wanted more, so and that's why I go to you, Loren. So I mean, and we'll mention Arlene Sorkin, who we just lost a few weeks ago. Obviously, when they introduced the Harley Quinn character, nobody knew that was going to blow up. So in their booth, when you were with all these other actors, what was it like, essentially playing with them, and what kind of creativity did you guys get to have in playing, and in the direction with the staff working on it?
Well, all of us created the roles from scratch. So even though there had been the great show in the 60s, which I grew up with, the Batman and Robin series, we were given the opportunity to create these characters from the ground up. So Arlene created this character from the ground up. I created, the Batman. All of us created from the ground up. So as far as when we actually got into the recording, we had as much freedom as any actor does in any play or any movie or any TV show to act, to really get into the scene. We didn't change lines or anything like that. And the producer, Bruce Timm, was very clear on what he wanted in each episode. So I would say a little wiggle room, but really not that much. The vision that he had and the vision that Andrea Romano had with the voices, that's pretty much what we followed.
But I'm sure as time went on, as opposed to doing a dub kind of thing, they saw chemistry between different actors.
Well, if you recall at the very beginning, Robin was just sort of kind of a marginalized figure. He was at college and he came in, to say a couple of gee whiz lines. And then after they were working with me for a while, they said, "Oh, well, let's try this with you, and let's try that with you." And so then the role got bigger and bigger until they finally wrote for me. They wrote Robin's Reckoning and other episodes where they said, "Oh, heck, we know what this guy can do, so let's write for him, as opposed to writing around him."
No worries at all. No worries at all. So one of the things coming to these kind of conventions, meeting all the fans. I mean, both shows, Pokemon, Batman, G.I. Joe we were talking about earlier, Lauren. These shows are, I guess, modern day classics, if you will. The influence that these characters that you've played have on these generations. What is it like meeting the people telling you how much your characters meant to them, the show, difficult time? Because obviously everybody watches different things, the connections that people make. What is that experience like for you as an actor?
Well, I've only started doing these conventions like a couple of years ago, but I was just saying to the person, they always give me somebody to handle the money. Everybody who comes up is super nice. I mean, they say you were a big part of my childhood, and then I always say, well, I hope it was a good part of your childhood, and then they always say, yes, it was. I mean, every show is special, I guess, to their fans, certainly. I mean, Pokemon just, as you said, it exploded. It had, something or some combination of things that were just locked into kids' imaginations and still have a real grasp on it. I was lucky enough to be a part of it, and still kind of a part of it, being here and going to shows and meeting the fans. But the fans, I mean, it just, also I think, as far as Pokemon, it was like the last big show on broadcast TV. I always think that was a big thing because after, Nickelodeon was coming in with shows, but it was on broadcast, and every kid in America who had a TV, which is virtually every kid, had that. And the cards were out there, and the games were out there, and it was just like a tsunami of Pokemon stuff. And a lot of kids were involved with it. Also, I think it was a little unusual, and they had boys and girls. I think it's still skewed with boys, but I think that the show may have skewed even more with girls. Because I have a lot of fans coming up, but it was a real big part of that childhood, and the people that come up are super nice, and they just love the show, and they still love the show. People have tattoos, and they've named their kids after Pokemon, and it's just really, an edifying thing for the small part that I played. It's really great. I mean, people come up and say nice things, and they give you money. I mean, what's not to like?
Well, we had a unique situation with our show because we were on at 3:30 every day. Different parts of the country was different, 3:34, whatever it was. But a lot of our fans were latchkey kids, so they would come home. Probably some of you here, maybe, but they would come home from school, and no matter how bad a day at school they had, what happened with their friends, what was happening in their family, it was like the one thing they could count on. So a lot of people tell me, they say, it meant so much to me that I had that to look forward to, and then would always make me feel good and feel good about myself when I would watch an episode, and how that, a lot of people said, well, it kind of saved my life because whatever else was going on, I could enjoy that. So that means a lot when people tell me that.
I guess I've got one of you. The difference between playing like Robin versus like later in the series when you're playing like Nightwing, a little more like ambivalent towards Bruce Wayne. How did you approach, like, obviously, like, there is a difference in, like, characterization and tone and all that. How do you feel, how do you approach, like, those two roles and reconcile it? Because even, like, Nightwing, as he is, like, a little less, like, Bruce Wayne's the greatest man on Earth, you still, like, learn and know, like, hey, Batman doesn't care about people. And for yourself, the difference between playing like a Pokemon and saying like playing like Blaine, who at least for myself, probably like in the show, Blaine was the funniest. I would say like Blaine's like silly little bit he does before like Ash has to like fight him and all that. probably funniest gym challenger. Kind of like the differences in like these two roles, formats, etc. That you have to both play the same show. How do they stack up against each other?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah.
No, I'm only kidding. So, anyway, yeah. I mean, you know, when you go to the, or they have us go to these shows, they have to do like a little thing for social media, and you say, hey, I'm going to be at this thing, and I was Charmander, and you know, and so people have started asking for Blaine, you know, this gym leader, and it's on cards and stuff. And the thing is, you know, this was 25 years ago, and it was like probably an hour and a half out of my life, and I'm doing a podcast about the making of the show. I haven't heard, you know, 25 years this year, so I've gone back episode by episode, you know, things I remember, you know, misremember, whatever. But the thing is, so I wanted to do the Blaine voice, and I don't even remember what the voice was. As I said, it's like 45 minutes, probably like Blaine, I don't know. I just jumped in and did it. You know, it's. You know, some people's like, what was it like to work on the show? Like, it wasn't great. I mean, I think it was greater in retrospect, because it's like any job. You know, if you're working at a shoe store, and you know, all of a sudden the shoe store becomes the most popular shoe store in the world, people say, what was it like working at that store? Well, you know, you put people's feet in shoes and you look for like an 8.5 E. But looking back at it, it's like, yeah, I guess it was a big thing. So I don't really know what the question was, and I'm not even sure what my answer is, but I just talked for a little bit, and now Loren can talk for a while, I hope a long time.
Well, what was great about the show is they did the transition from Robin to Nightwing. Dick Grayson transitioned and became his own superhero. So he started out as a sidekick, then he became sort of antagonistic toward Batman, and then broke away and became his own superhero. And then eventually they worked together as equals. So the way I approached it, actually I took my cue from the late great Kevin Conroy, and that was, I said, you know, as he becomes his own superhero, he would try to emulate the voice of what used to be his mentor. So when I started out with Robin sort of up here, you know. He was the sidekick voice, and then when he became Nightwing, he was more like Batman. So that modulated the voice, and the writing was so good that, you know, as actors, we get all of our cues from really great writing. If something's not well written, you have to sort of like grab it from outer space and make it up as you go along. But it was really all there for us, so we were very lucky that way.
Do we have questions from the audience or anything?
Anybody work in a shoe store that can tell us about?
Does anybody know about like size 8.5 wide versus size
Eating
like
is very
9
hard, 'cause
narrow?
it's a short foot and a wide foot. That's rare.
So both shows actually aired on Kids WB back in the day. And one thing they used to do was that they had promos where the characters would sometimes cross over. So I was wondering, did you two ever get to work on any of those promos, and what was that experience like?
I do remember that we did like a few seasons in. I don't think I was working on Pokemon. I was working on probably Sonic X. And we did a Christmas thing. It was like a song, and I think I wrote that song, and then we put it with some Christmas thing, and they had all the characters, and we would just reflap them to do that. And then later on, I worked on promos for and then they were always doing something with like Yu-Gi-Oh promos, and I worked on those even, you know, writing copy and stuff. But I don't particularly recall.
When we were doing G.I. Joe, we had the PSA promos. We always ended with, and remember, knowing is half the battle.
So I hear the Christmas promos. Did you work on the 4th of July promo?
You know, somebody else asked me about this. Again, you know, I'm having a hard time I was going to say a hard time remembering what I had for breakfast, but I actually had bacon, egg, and whole wheat toast. So I remember that, the breakfast, but I don't
kind of
remember.
cheese?
But what was it?
What kind of cheese do you have?
Oh, I don't know. But what was that? Somebody else brought this
Yeah,
4th
it
of
was
July
the,
promo.
4th of July promo. And
Was it something strange,
Silly,
or-
yeah, it was really silly.
I don't know. I don't remember.
You might have done it, but you remember breakfast, and that's what matters in life.
It's okay.
So, Lauren, you mentioned about working on scripted TV shows, right? I want to ask you about an unscripted show. Tell us about your experience with Larry David on Curb.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite experiences of all time, was being on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And the entire show, if you don't know, is improv. It's 100% improv. The only thing they tell the actors is where they want the scene to kind of go. So, like in one of the scenes I did, they said, you've got to accuse Larry of having killed your friend on the golf course. Go! So then it's just a back and forth and a back and forth. And they cut, they pick up over here and they pick up over there. And it's a big soup of improv lines. And the best thing in the world, one of my greatest triumphs in life will always be that I cracked up Larry David.
Which, you definitely want to make sure you do that with the boss. So longevity of these shows. I mean, we talked about the classics. What do you think makes them so time-sustaining? Why they're beloved now? They'll probably be beloved going into the future. These fans have been 20, 30 years into this. What is the longevity that you think is behind that?
Well, I was just saying, I just read, I knew this was the 25th year, September 8th, I think we premiered the first Pokémon episode 25 years ago. I hear this question, I give the same answer. I think that there are 3 things that make any show a success and popular, and no one knows what they are, and I'm included in that. The only thing I could having said that, I think that Pokemon, because it has that thing where your kids have to memorize things, and I think for some kids that's a real, that's like a real hook. They memorize stuff and they have this knowledge that adults don't have. I would have teachers come up to me and like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I work on the show. Oh, what show? Pokemon. Oh, Pokemon. Oh, why can't you do something where they memorize like the presidents or something? Because the kids don't care about, they care about bugs that can attack other things and whatever. So I don't know what it is. I think as far as the Pokemon, it had the different things. It has the game, it has the cards, not so much the manga here, but in the TV show. And I think one aspect, and then I'll stop talking, is that the TV show, the kids, Ash didn't always win, and I think that was a big thing because when you have a thing, the kids, Mighty Mouse always wins. That's going way back, but when you had kids, that was real, and he could be kind of a jerk, and the other trainers could be jerks, and they would make mistakes, and they would feel bad, and they would do things, and then realize, and then whatever. And also, there are no adults involved, and I think that's a dream for most kids and for many adults.
Well, I think every episode of our show was like a good movie. And so what makes a good movie is what made each of those episodes good. Acting, writing, directing, an overall arc that takes you from the beginning to the end and takes you through the growth or the struggles of a character. And so anything, I think, like on camera too, like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or our show, each episode is like a movie. And there are movies that you watch over and over and over again, and then there are movies that just fall by the wayside and you forget about them. And like, oh, did I see that? But the movies that you watch over and over again, it's for the same reason that I think you watch Batman series over and over again.
Well said, well said. And we're talking about voice acting here, and I'm sure there may be some people in the audience. What is the best advice both of you could give somebody, and I mean not even voice acting, beyond camera acting, if you want to get into the biz? We are in a very competitive world of TikTok, YouTube, and all of that now. I mean, times have changed drastically. What do you recommend to young people who do want to pursue a career like you guys?
Well, every actor that I've ever met who was great at voice acting was simply a good actor. They were trained as an actor. A lot of them worked on stage as actors. That's the most accessible thing, I think, to someone taking classes, getting into a play, getting experience on stage, creating a character. Those are all things that you need to be a good voiceover actor. Then there's the skills involved, and that's like nothing. That's anybody can teach you that online. There's great teachers who will teach you, how far to hold a mic. You don't go off, mic and all those things. And I would say, first things first, train yourself as an actor and be a really good actor, and the rest is easy to follow.
I was just lucky. I don't consider myself an actor. I really hesitate to give advice. I don't know. It's so different now, and things, it's easier because you can audition from any place and you can get hired, but everybody else can too. So, are there going to be more voiceover jobs in the future? I don't know. I just don't know.
So I'm going to ask once again if anybody had any other questions that they would like to ask Michael and Loren. Oh, come on up, sir. Put you in the microphone.
I just wanted to know, which Pokemon specifically did you voice?
As I said, I haven't. I did a lot of the Pokemon voices. I say that I did over 30, but I actually think it's more than 40, but I'm hesitant to say that because there were some characters, I haven't heard a lot of them in 25 years. So I want to, as I'm doing the podcast, Original Pokémon, I want to earball, I want to hear it before I say that I did it, because there were a bunch of characters that I always did, and then there were a bunch of characters that I sometimes would fill in for. I mean, even human characters, because I can see an email like, oh, in episode 39, when you said, hey, Misty, that really was you, it wasn't Eric Stewart, right? And I was like, maybe, I guess. So I did Charmander, Psyduck, Snorlax, Magikarp, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Ekans, Coughing, Wheezing, Seal, Dugong, Parasect, Blaine, the gym leader. Those are the ones that come to mind. There's some are on the poster. Come down and look. If you don't have to buy anything. Come by and say hello if you're a Pokemon fan, or just walk by and sneer if you're not. So I don't know, but I think there's something called Bulbapedia, which has a lot of Blastoise. Or no, Eric Stewart says he did Blastoise, which I'm not saying he didn't, but I did it in the movie. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Come on over, sir.
Looking back at your whole career, is there any maybe character or a moment where you wish you pursued more? I wish I went from that guy, or maybe I wish I went from that place, or something like that.
The one that got away, right?
I wish I had. The only thing, Wanda, I miss is the sheriff in High Noon. I felt I could have done something with that. I mean, Gary Cooper was great, but I think could have brought something special to the part.
I auditioned to be one of the Ninja Turtles, and I took it seriously and I auditioned for it, but afterward I said, that show's never going to go anywhere.
I felt the same thing with Pokemon. They showed me the thing, and I said to my partner, I said, try to get some money up front, because this thing is not going 13 episodes, honestly. I said, 13 episodes, that's it.
You never know what's going to pop.
It was so different.
Any other questions from the audience? Gentlemen, thank you so much. A round of applause for these guys. So, absolutely. So, guys, we are here till 6 o'clock tonight. So come on over, see Loren, see Michael. We're going to be here all day tomorrow, but definitely come on over to the booth now. Get a picture, get some autographs, got all kinds of great stuff. Thank you again, guys.